Ovulation bleeding explained. What's normal and what's not? Let's deep dive into ovulation bleeding and talk about what is typically normal and nothing really to worry about, and what is not and needs investigation. Hello, I am so thrilled to be here. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michelle Cooke, period and hormone naturopath, natural fertility educator or menstrual cycle chart educator, and emotion release technique practitioner. I help women struggling with their menstrual cycles have easy, pain-free periods, balanced hormones, and emotional well-being. And I see patients both online and face-to-face. If you have any questions or comments as we go through, just pop them in the comments box down below. Ovulation bleeding, what is it? When you have a bleed mid-cycle, sometimes it can come as a bit of a shock, particularly when you're not expecting your period yet. Compared to a bleed, however, it is a lighter bleed and it's generally spotting, or you may notice that there's fertile mucus around that ovulation time, that's stretchy or egg white, and it's blood tinged, so this can appear pinky in colour. But it is a minimal bleed, so that is the main point I'd like to make here. So an ovulation bleed obviously happens during ovulation. So this spotting type bleed is short in duration and it's only lasting a day or two. So, and appearing as the name suggests on the day of ovulation or a couple of days afterwards. Why does an ovulation bleed happen? During ovulation, there is a change in hormones. So before ovulation, there's a big rise in estrogen, which helps your eggs mature and develop. And this is when the chosen one is selected, otherwise known as the dominant follicle. So this contains your egg. Then the estrogen levels start to decrease, and this is progesterone's time to shine. So those levels will actually begin to rise. Your egg's released from the follicle, and what's left behind is the corpus luteum, which is a sac that will actually start to produce progesterone from here on in. So the uterine lining's response to this hormonal tag team, if you like, is to bleed, okay, because of this hormonal change. So some women experience the duo of ovulation bleeding and ovulation pain. Not all women, but sometimes they will come as a couple. When it is not normal. So if the bleed is more than just spotting and it resembles the bleed that you would have with your period, whether it be light, medium, or heavy. If you're experiencing spotting between your periods and you haven't had that before, you need to change your tampon, pad, cup, or period undies quite regularly. And if the bleeding lasts for more than 2 days, then this is not considered to be a normal ovulation bleed, and it would be worthwhile getting investigated. And any bleeding outside the period is known as intermenstrual bleeding, and it needs to be checked out just in case and for peace of mind. Reasons for bleeding in between periods. Implantation bleeding. So this happens when the egg has been fertilized and it takes up its residence in the uterine lining. Ectopic pregnancy. So this is when the fertilized egg starts to develop in a location outside the uterus, which can be in the cervix, in the ovary, in the abdomen, and typically and most generally speaking, it will usually reside in the fallopian tube. So this is quite serious and it does require urgent surgery. Poor nutrition or eating disorders. So not eating enough, fasting, not eating the right types of foods, or due to eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia as well. Excessive exercise, ovarian cysts, PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, cervical abnormalities, polyps. So these could be cervical polyps, so polyps taking place in the cervix, or endometrial polyps taking place in the uterine space. Fibroids, endometriosis, STIs or sexually transmitted infections, and just as an example, chlamydia can actually cause bleeding in between the periods as well. Benign lesions on the cervix, so benign means non-cancerous, so a non-cancerous lump. Uterine cancer, endometrial hyperplasia. So the endometrial cells are located in the endometrial lining. In this condition, those cells are being stimulated by long-term estrogen dominance, where there's a high estrogen state and as a result, progesterone is too low. So the uterine lining thickens in this state, and symptoms can be things like spotting, irregular bleeding, and or heavy flow because the lining's quite thick. Dysfunctional uterine bleeding, so the body's hormone production and management is affected by glands in the brain, so our hypothalamus and our pituitary gland. Typically, an ovulation takes place in this state where there's no ovulation happening, and the bleeding is both unpredictable and irregular. So I would suggest that if you experience any expected or unexpected bleeding in between your periods, known as metrorrhagia or intermenstrual bleeding, it's really worth going to a doctor and actually getting investigated for this, just to rule out anything that's of concern, because as you can see from that list that I read out, some of them are not too much of a concern, but some of them are quite serious and they need to be ruled out. Or maybe you don't know that you have PCOS or endometriosis or fibroids. So this is a really good one to screen for to see if that's the case for you. And then when you go to the doctor, they might refer you off for some investigation, some pathology and things like that. Or they might decide that it's appropriate to refer you to a gynecologist. And obviously they specialize in all things women's health and reproductive health. So that would be good as well. If you would like support with bleeding between your periods, I would absolutely love to help and support you and be part of your healthcare team. So if you would like to book an appointment, if you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description. If you're watching on Instagram, the link is in the bio. And if you're watching on Facebook, I will pop a link down below for you to go ahead and book an appointment. Oh, and if you're watching on my website, there'll be a button below to book. So I'd be more than happy to help you manage that alongside your primary care practitioners as well. So FYI, I will be uploading a video every single week talking about women's health, periods, hormones, menstrual cycles. So make sure that you stay tuned for the next video. Thank you so very much for watching. I really appreciate you. And if you're watching on my YouTube channel, be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any future videos. And hit the bell icon as well so that you're not missing out on all this juicy information that I have to share with you. And I hope that you have a great day or a great night wherever you're based in the world. Thank you so much for listening.